Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome back to another episode of Can We Discuss with Yara and Petra. On today's episode, we're back to regular programming with just Yarush and I on your screens. For today's episode, we're going to be discussing the dangers of social media, specifically when it comes to mental health, relationships, and news. So, Yarush, how much do you think social media can really affect a person's, let's just talk about their day to day, right? How much do you think it can really affect your day to day as a user?
I can answer that in so many different ways or so many different folds, but I think I'm going to answer it in kind of a twofold question, right? It depends who you are as a person, and it depends how much you let it take up time in your day. So if you're just a person that wakes up, grabs their phone, and is on social media, that kind of sets a tone for the rest of your day. And you're grabbing your phone more often than you regularly would, or at least that's the way that I've started experiencing it. If you're a person that just wakes up and gets into the grind of things, has their coffee, has their breakfast, grabs their laptop, and then just starts working, and you're not on your phone that often, I think for the rest of the day, you forget about social media and it doesn't really affect you much. However, a lot of the times I find myself just picking up, like just grabbing my phone midday, like mid work day, grabbing my phone and scrolling all through social media. And I think that, and seeing what other people are doing and whatnot, especially when it's summertime and I'm stuck at home working and I'm looking and I'm like, okay, I'm comparing my summer to others. I really shouldn't
Yeah.
do that. I had a different vacation. People don't necessarily post their regular day to day stuff. So I kind of start to feel like, okay, look, the grass is not greener on the other side. Let me just focus on myself. That's like me today. Now,
Yeah. I
how does
I
it
think I'm
affect
the
you?
yeah, I think I'm the same way as you where I used to be I literally used to start my day on social media. I did. It's not a great thing to admit or to recognize about yourself, but it's something that me and Jason, my husband, both of us very quickly like started to realize how much it affects our attitude that day based on what we see on social as well, right? So
Yeah.
we we've come to an agreement that like okay, within the first hour, obviously we live abroad, like we live away from family, so we've come to an agreement of like within at least mish the first hour, the first 30 minutes of your day, let's try to start it not on social media. What we do is like there's messaging platforms like WhatsApp, fine, we'll go in, we'll check in with the family, just make sure that
Of
everyone's
course.
good, and that's really it. I've now started to like pick back up the habit of like getting out of bed right away, like not even allowing myself a minute to like sit in bed and just scroll mindlessly. صرت دغري انه اول ما اوعى بقوم وبنزل بعمل my steps for the day, and I think that's helped me a lot. It does
Yeah.
help that now I'm also watching a show and a show. It's Love Island, and I'm watching Love Island UK. And Love Island
Oh my
UK,
God.
the episodes, I know, the episodes launch at 3 a.m.
But
my time. So ما بحضرون until the next morning, and it really is like good motivation for you to have something to like look forward to in that morning, which is a different kind of content that we're
باترا عن
consuming.
جد ما بصدق ما بعرف شو بدي اقول لك.
I know. It's a different kind of
I
content
don't know
that
if
we're
it's better content than social media. I don't know if it's better than social media. That's all I'm gonna say,
listen.
Petra. That's all I'm gonna
It's
say.
it's very true. It really might not be better than social media, but for me, it's just to go
Yeah.
to say that like you just have to find something. Abil, when the weather wasn't this freaking hot, I would wake up and leave the house and go and put on my audiobook, for example, and take a walk in nature, which is a much better alternative. بس لما يكون كتير طقس برا شوب خلص انه I'm not going to go walk outside like at 7 a.m. That's not happening.
Yeah.
So you find a different way to make it happen, It really sets the tone for your day. I understand as a person that I am addicted to social media. We all are. There's like a good I think it's like 40% or something like that of social media users are actually addicted to social media, which is a huge number. I'm definitely a part of that percentage. بس إنه it is what it is. I think it's more so about like finding ways to cope and finding distractions outside of social media, maybe starting work a little bit earlier or something like that. But I feel like it definitely sets the tone for the day. But outside of just the daily or how it sets up the tone for the rest of your day, I think on a more broader level, when it comes to social media specifically, I think it doesn't really help a lot of people when it comes to their mental health. And this is something that we've only recently started a lot of us talking about and like being very honest and talking about our experiences. For people who are already like prone to depression or anxiety or self-esteem issues even just adds a whole other layer, makes it even so much worse. Have you ever like experienced something like that where social media is like adding on to your day-to-day anxiety, you felt like?
I think more recently than before, right? Especially with everything that's been going on in the region, the past, and I want to say recently, بس هلا صرنا تقريبا سنة, like it's been 9 months, right?
Yeah.
But with everything that's going on in the region and the fact that I'm in Lebanon right now, I feel like a lot of it is very heavy. And I
Yeah.
think you start realizing there's a lot of mental health issues or more mental health awareness as well, right? That's being raised. However, I think it's a double edged sword. So a lot of this is being raised on social media, just awareness, but also a lot of these issues are coming about because of the things that we've been seeing or consuming on a daily basis through social media.
صح.
So to me, there are a lot of negatives, like pros and cons to everything, right? Social media is definitely one of those things. And you need to control yourself when it comes to the content that you are taking in. يعني أنا
Yeah.
في كتير عالم that I used to follow. When Instagram obviously first started, we started following a lot of people. So there were
Yeah.
a lot of people, a lot of different accounts that I was following that I thought were really good for me. And then one day, خلص هيك ضاع خلقي ما عاد في like just to see all of these people and all of this different content and I'm like what value is it adding to my life, and now I find myself doing this more often. So every once in a while I go into the people that I follow and I go, what value are they adding to my life? Are they people
Just
that
clear
I
them right out.
love, that I want to have? Are they friends? Are they accounts that make me happy? Like I follow a lot of florist accounts and those make me really happy, obviously. بس انه صرت هلا I'm more conscious of what content I'm consuming, be it whatever, be it on social media, be it on the traditional media shows that we're watching or whatever, right? بس أنا I think هلا, and I think I'm going to ask you this question, right? I think هلا in this situation, I'm in Lebanon. I see how the situation is like, right? And I'm consuming, fine, I'm consuming social media, whatever content is there, but I already know, but I also know, sorry, what is happening on ground. You're in the States and you're supposed to be coming here. How is consumption of social media and the news on social media overall affecting you mentally?
Yeah. It's pretty much dad's gonna say I'm بتسبي, but it's pretty much a mind fuck, honestly. Because
Yeah.
you're seeing a side where every single story of my friends on Instagram, they're all like partying in Batroun or out trying the latest restaurant in Beirut, and or just hanging
Yeah.
out with their families. وما حدا عم يعطيكي هيدا الsense of like my original flight was just canceled 2 days ago to Beirut. The media outlets are sharing stories and sharing videos that are really scary of what's happening in Lebanon right now and the escalation that some outlets are anticipating. So for me mentally, it's weird because I have somewhat of a coping mechanism to try to just like block it all out, because I start to
Yeah.
literally just have tunnel vision on like the fact that I'm going home, the fact that I'm going to see mom, I'm going to see dad, I'm going to see the family. And I try to like block everything else out, which is probably not like the smartest approach. But for me, it's the only way that I'm able to fully still get on this plane, right? And I think
Yeah.
this was something I wanted to touch on in the end of the episode, but since we brought it up now, I think using social media as a news outlet and as a news platform is also something that we need to be very like careful with, because there's a lot of propaganda out there. There's a lot of opinions and a lot of noise that could really come across as facts when they're actually not facts. And you need to be very careful about where the source of information is coming from. And that's something that's really, really
Hmm.
important when it comes to social media and using it as a news outlet. Is if you're not careful, you could lead yourself down a rabbit hole of just like false information, right? So it's like making sure, and by the way, this comes with every element, right? It comes with the element of using it as a
Yeah.
news
So it's not just
platform.
the news, it's about everything else.
Exactly. It's about using it as a news platform. It's about using social media as like your fitness inspiration and seeing all of this like illusion of perfection that people are showcasing on their socials. It's about using it even يعني حتى هلا there's a lot of pages on social media that are like supporting mental health and like motivational ones and pages like that. بس انه حتى اوقات these pages can also somehow in a weird way have like a negative effect on you, لانه بتصيري بتحسي طب okay, why am I not feeling that way, right? And there's always that sense of like comparing your journey to someone else's.
I think that's something that we also touched upon, kind of. You can touch upon this, comparing your journey to others' journeys in any topic or any conversation that we
صح.
discuss, right? I think we also talked about this with Jude. We talked about
Yeah.
this with Dr. Samad.
Yeah.
We've spoken about it before when it comes to
Yeah.
different relationships or friendships and just life in general. And I
صح.
think the dangers of social media are, they don't come only from social media. Social media is a tool. The dangers come from what people are posting and what you're choosing, as I mentioned, what you're choosing to consume. So the
Yeah.
dangers of social media is, to me, ultimately, is not knowing the limit for yourself. Everyone has a limit when it comes to consumption. Like, I know for a fact some people have their limit at 15 minutes. They've set the
Yeah.
time. I have it
Yeah.
at 45 minutes, me myself, because I
Yeah.
just,
I have it in an
there came a
hour.
point in my time, there came a point in my life where I was on social media so often, like I would just scroll mindlessly, and it became kind of like a coping mechanism. When I'm very anxious, when I'm very stressed at work or whatever, I would just I would scroll
Girl.
mindlessly, not
Yeah.
really not really actually taking anything in. So it's about being conscious or very mindful of the time that you're setting for yourself, the content that you're taking in for yourself as well.
But
At the end of the day, it's really about understanding your own limit. And the dangerous thing about social media is that a lot of the times these lines get blurred, insane. And you start looking at things that you shouldn't be, or you start going down rabbit holes, like you mentioned, that we shouldn't really be going down. So obviously, Petra, أنا وياكي, we're not psychologists, we're not psychiatrists, we're not
صح.
coaches or mental health experts, right? But at the end of the day, I think what's very important and what's worked with me personally, at least, is really limiting my consumption. Really knowing who I'm following, who I'm actually interacting with on social media, really seeing what value they bring to my life, taking a step back every once in a while and seeing what value they add to my life, understanding if I'm supporting, for example, a friend or a business, is this friend or is this business adding value to my life in any way? Am I just being a supportive friend and this is amazing, right? So you really need to be very aware of the content that you are taking in. But at the
مزبوط.
end of the day, the way that I see it personally is it shifts for me. It depends on my day to day and what is happening in my daily life that also affects the content that I am consuming or the time that I'm spending on social media. I don't know if you're the same way.
No, I'm the same way. I also think one important factor here to mention is that like is age, right? Because
Yeah.
social media users are as young as 11 years old. And so age also plays a
Which
big
is
role.
crazy to me. Imagine
Yeah,
11 years old. Like تخيل
yeah,
إن إحنا وقت وكنا we were 11 years old. The only content we were consuming was running around outside, being on our bicycles, rollerblading
yeah,
in the compound. Honestly, that was what
yeah.
we were, that's what you could see. So now
But that's
imagine being exposed to so much at such a young age. It
exactly.
really affects you on so many levels.
أكيد يعني هيدا اللي كنت عم جرب وصل عليه is إنه نحن هلا we're at an age where الحمد لله we're self-aware, we can understand
Yeah.
the importance of self-control and the importance of setting your own limits. But there's still a huge, very fragile generation that today is sitting on social media, being exposed to things that they shouldn't be exposed to at such a young age. And there's an actual like dangerous element to that outside of just their mental health. It's their physical health كمان يعني. We know about the TikTok, the 7 million TikTok cult. We know about حتى the incident that
Yeah.
happened in Lebanon with the hairdresser and you know the young innocent kids that were dragged into that situation as well. So it poses like a lot of different threats, and I think like with your age تقدر انت بتستوعبي اكتر انه this isn't your parents like trying to control your life. This is them actually trying to protect you and share knowledge that they
Yeah.
know a little bit better about, you know. بقى هيدا الشيء أنا كمان
صح.
بخوفني أكتر شيء على social media is like for us I believe like with age you also have to be accountable for your own life, right? And for your own choices. So is that انت شخص
Of
that
course.
you,
Yeah.
and of course it's harder for some people than it is for others, but if you start to notice that, like for me Petra مثلا, if I start to notice انه I'm comparing my body to other people, I'm comparing my lifestyle and my relationship to other people, I'm aware enough and I need to be accountable for saying, you know what, this is something that I could easily switch off and that I can easily control in my life. And I need to make the decision to make that happen for myself, you know? So that's
Yeah.
something that's important. But لما أنت تكوني you're young, it's a little bit harder for you to do that, especially with all of this wave of like, all of my friends are on social, all of my friends are on TikTok. How can I not be, you know?
All of
But
my friends have phones. All of my friends are going out to these places. I think maybe,
exactly.
and this is some like a good thing for us to do, maybe we can at one point get like a child psychologist to talk to us about the effects of social media and what
Yeah,
they've
I would
seen.
love that.
I
I
think
would
that would
love
be
that.
great, honestly, because
لا لا
we
أكيد I
have our
would
own
love to do
personal
that.
views, right? وكل شخص
Yeah,
عنده إياها. But that would
صح.
be kind of really cool to have as well, right?
مظبوط
Because
100%.
like you said, even now as adults, you look at social media and you compare. We're just, it's only human. It's human
Yeah.
nature for you to look at things and to compare. بس مثل ما قلت,
Which
it's about being aware and having that maturity to block out and say, actually, no, I don't want to compare. I am where I am.
100%.
It is what it is. If I want to get to a different point, I need to fix it myself, right? And not just
Exactly.
comparing, but it's really
Exactly.
making yourself better.
100%. And I think as you get older, another thing that like is affected by social media is your relationships. And your relationships not only with your friends,
Yeah.
but more importantly with your significant other or your partner. ليش؟ لأنه بتصير أنت subconsciously, again, you're going back to the comparison, or you're looking at other couples and you're like, wait, but why is that guy treating his girl in بهيدا الطريقة وانت you're not doing this for me? Or you know what I mean? You just start to really like compare, and you start to hold each other somewhat accountable for things that like aren't even real, right? Like these are just reels that people like, you have to understand that it takes a lot to create content, and there's a lot of thought that goes into it. So you better believe that every single minute of that video that you're watching, every single second, is very much scripted. It becomes harder to start to isolate or differentiate between reality to what you see on Instagram, right? And then another thing outside of comparing is trust issues. Like you start to overanalyze sometimes different actions that your partner might have on social media or the kind of content they're consuming. Outside of those two, في عندك the worst thing, in my opinion, that social media isolates partners from each other. And that's really, really scary
Yeah.
for me.
But I think again, that's kind of one of the biggest things that people need to be aware of and kind of put a limit to. Unfortunately,
Exactly.
not a lot of people can take ownership of that or can be held accountable when it comes to this kind of stuff. ما بيلاحظوا على حالهم. يعني أنا one of the most dangerous things for me, or one of the things that I actually hate seeing, is best when you're out in public and people are just sitting together and they're scrolling,
I
and I'm
hate
like,
that.
just scroll when you're back home. Like, just
إنه عن
scroll
جد.
when you're not interacting. Scroll on your own time. Scroll when you're on the toilet. I don't know. بس إنه ما ضروري when you're out having dinner with everyone, all you're doing is sitting there scrolling on your phone. It
So
really
lame.
affects those personal connections, those
إيه
face-to-face interactions. Because
100%.
okay, فينا أحكيكم on, like, I can be on social media, I can be on whatever the whole night and then just completely ignore you. But see, you're living in your head a lot, which is something that is very, very, obviously we don't have to say this to everyone. Everyone knows this, but it's very unhealthy.
Yeah.
Living in your head. بتصيري تفكري بالاشياء, you overthink a lot of things,
مليون
even
مرة
if they're
صح.
just not happening, they don't exist.
صح.
But you really start overthinking because you
Yes.
are stuck in your head.
Yeah.
Communication in life is just key to everything, and I think we've said this a million times in all of
Yeah.
our podcasts, but communication is everything, and it needs
صح.
to come when you're with a person. It needs to be with that person.
Yeah,
You do
100%.
isolate yourself مثل ما انت قلتي.
Yeah, yeah, it's really like so easy to isolate yourself when you're on social. أنا وجيسون صرنا مثلا إذا أوقات بحسوا إنه okay, he went to the room and he's been in the room for a minute, and I'm like, what are you doing? Now we say scrolling, you know, إنه تنعرف حالنا, to give each other like a hint إنه come stop me from doing this. لأنه it's so
Yeah.
easy to fall into that, and sometimes when you're home and you're back from work, you do want to isolate yourself in terms of like ما
Yeah, of
عبالك
course.
تفكر, ما عبالك تحكي مع حدا, you know what I mean? But when you're
صح.
out in the real world, it's really, really sad when I see people out at dinner and they're on their phones. And even if it's like they're waiting for their food to come or whatever, إنه ما بقى تعرفوا تحكوا مع بعض face to face, إنه you have to fill in the void of this quietness, or you can't even sit with each other and enjoy each other's quiet company. Like it's a very sad
Yeah.
thing that we're coming to. But yeah, I think it's very important to be self-aware, to recognize انه انت you got to a dangerous point with your social media habits, and to understand like, all right, what are the steps that I can take to help myself through it. So one of the big
Yeah.
things, and you've already mentioned this, Yarush, is mindful consumption. Understanding like what is the content that you are actually consuming. Is it helpful? Is it helping you through a certain moment in your life? Is it adding any value to your life? But another thing is doing a digital detox. Yara, have you ever done a digital detox?
Of course. I remember when we talked about the episode about Palestine, I
Oh yeah.
mentioned that digital detox, and then I've done it sporadically, like here and there, because I've just felt like
Yeah.
okay, مش digital detox, social media specifically detox.
Social
And
media
okay, اليوم
detox,
بحكوا
yeah,
هيدا أنا
because
بكون
we need
in
our laptops.
general. Yeah. بكون
Yeah.
بكون like in general خلاص I'm like so overwhelmed with a lot of things, be it work, be it I don't know, life in general, and I'm just like, you know what, اليوم hot friends. I'm not even going to scroll on my phone. I'm going to put it away. I'm going to put it in the bedroom, and just not look at it, right? I think
Yeah.
another big thing, another step that people can take is limiting the time that they spend on social media.
Yeah, your
Limiting your
phone does that
time
for you.
limits consumption.
Yeah,
Yeah, your
100%.
phone does that for you. I mean, you get the option to ignore it, but just you have to have you have to have
Train
kind of the
yourself.
discipline not to ignore it as well. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You have to train yourself.
Exactly.
Obviously, if your
Yeah,
work is on social media, that's something that's going to be very difficult.
different
بس
story.
كمان your
Yeah.
relationship with social media بتكون completely غير.
100%. And I think for me, because my work has a lot to do with social media as well, like naturally being in marketing, it's given me and now the podcast, عملت لي ردة فعل على السوشيال ميديا
Yeah.
انه هلا I don't want to use it anymore because it's associated with work a lot. But
Yeah.
I think the time limit is a really great tip. Like if you don't have time limits, do that for yourself. Use it. It's gonna be hard at first. أنا بالأول when I put my time limit, ضليتنا I'm ignore limit or remind me in 15 minutes. وهلا صرت much better with like خلص عن جد ignoring my limit. وشو بنبسط من حالي لما my limit shows up so much later at night. I'm like, oh wow, I literally have not been on Instagram for a total of 1 hour this whole day. This is amazing, you know? So كمان أنا مثلا when I'm on vacation or when I'm out in public with friends, I'm very good at ما بشيل التليفون من جزداني, which is sometimes
Yeah.
not
I think that's a
great.
great. أنا صرت okay fine بشيله من جزداني, but I flip the
أنا
phone now so I can't see it when it rings or when anything happens. It just doesn't pop up anymore, which
yeah
is great. I think that's also
يارا
good.
ما بشيله من
I've
جزداني.
also gotten in the habit of do it quiet modes, like just put quiet mode.
Yeah,
أنا خلاص after 10:30, I think 10:30 p.m. at night, my Instagram at least is on quiet mode, so I don't get notifications. I don't open my
yeah,
Instagram after 10:30 p.m. unless I get
yeah.
a message from someone telling me, "Hey, please look at what I shared on social media or on Instagram or whatever."
Yeah. My phone goes into sleep mode at 8:30. خلاص. The whole phone just fully goes into sleep mode at 8:30. I don't get notifications unless I open my phone and go into each session, which is literally the best thing ever because it's like wind down mode for me, wind down time. وأحلى شيء. But yeah, this is a great tip, by the way, when you're going out, the ما تشيلوه من الجزدان, literally, or like keep it in your jacket or whatever. This is a great tip for me. And I've found myself so many times in social settings where I freak out and I'm like looking for my phone. I'm like, you guys, I lost my phone. I don't know where it is. بكون حاطة جزداني like at the entrance or something or wherever we are, just away. And then I go and I'm like, oh, I just never took it out of my bag. And it's literally the best thing ever. And everyone's like, oh, wow, that's amazing. Like, how do you do that? But I think that that really like helps set a boundary for myself when I'm in social settings and just helps me لانه بعرف حالي انه اذا تليفوني قدامي I'm gonna be using it. So I think when you know your shortcomings, you have to take actionable steps towards making it happen or bettering it for yourself. But yeah, so those were pretty much some of our tips and tricks when it comes to, you know, guiding yourself through this social media addiction that we all have and protecting yourself from the dangers of social media.
As always, please make sure to leave your comments, your feedback, any advice that you actually use for yourself to control your social media consumption and kind of minimize the dangers of social media. Please do share them in the comments below.
As always, make sure to subscribe to our page, share with your friends, and come right back here next week for another episode of Can We Discuss with Yara and Petra. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.